We pick up on Mark Scaife, very busy boy at Mallala this afternoon, competing in not only the Gold Star Formula Holden round, but also driving Nissan's new GTR four-wheel drive twin-turbo Tourer. But he's a fit young lad, does plenty of training, loves his motor racing, he's out in front, as he was actually at Winton, only to run into problems there.
And the hometown favourite here, without a doubt, will be this man. That's Mark Poole in the Clipsal Schreiker car that is entirely designed and built here in South Australia by the Croydon Park TAFE College. He was the winner of the last round at Amaroo a couple of weeks ago, so Mark Poole certainly the man who will be the local crowd favourite. He's currently lying in second position.
And did one heck of a job at Amaroo Park. The scrap is developing for third. We're following it for you. Here it is with Neil Crompton and Richard Davidson. Crompton having a bit of a go now at Davidson, who was able to pass him 2 laps back. Simon Kane, who did have pole for this race and missed the kick, is motoring fairly quickly. I think he's passed one of the cars in the race so far. He's got a big job to do though. 7th. Here's Crompton again, lurching under brakes. Davidson keeping him honest. They're having a great scrap here.
Yes, Crompton's trying his hardest to rearrange that magnificent multicoloured Dulux colour scheme on the car.
He's having a good go at Richard Davidson, keeping the pressure well and truly on him. The Dulux auto colour car. So Neil's actually gone from Turo to Fluoro today. This is the scrap to third place. Race leader still Mark Scaife from Mark Poole, then Richard Davidson and Neil Crompton side by side for third. And Crompton, a very bold move under brakes, but it paid off. Excellent passing move that at the end of the pit straight. So Neil Crompton now moves to third in the Dulux Auto Colour out.
And he's actually pulling away from Davison there as they go down the back straight. This is Crompton ahead of Davison. Davison closed up a little bit there under brakes. Crompton just accelerating away just a little bit better out of the turn and has got a few car lengths on Davison as they go down towards the zigzag.
So he's clearly into third now. Mark Scaife still leading by about 5 car lengths to Mark Poole. Just probably a similar gap then back to Crompton in car number 7. Without doubt the best turned out Formula Holden in Australia. And here's our race leader though, Mark Scaife.
He's certainly doing a great job being able to adapt from driving the touring car, the Nissan GTR, and then jumping into the Formula Holden. And over the past few days here at Mallala in practices, they've had a stage where they've been coming in the Commodore or in the Nissan, having to jump straight out of the car and straight into the Formula Holden.
Well, he's a young guy and, as I said earlier, superbly fit and would be relishing all of this. Just a quiet day at the touring car races down the track will seem fairly ho-hum to Mark after a couple of days racing where he's fielded both the Gold Star race and the touring event. I'm just watching to see whether Crompton is actually gaining ground. I think he is on Mark Poole. There's Mark Poole going through now in second. Here comes Crompton in car number 7. Richard Davidson is your 4th place driver.
And John Briggs has made himself up into 5th position. This is Neil Crompton. They've had a little bit of trouble in practice trying to get some heat into the front tyres to get the car handle slightly better.
There's Richard Davidson going through. Had held down third for a while. Involved in probably a 3-lap dice there with Neil Crompton. Now young Neil has been able to pull away from him well and truly. Richard from the famous Davidson family of Melbourne. His dad, Lex, of course, one of Australia's finest drivers. Brother John, also involved in open wheeler racing, Formula 5000. Now looking at land record speed attempts and such. And Richard has always retained his link with open wheeler competition in Australia, no matter what the division was. And he's thriving on the Gold Star class for Formula Holden this year.
And it's certainly no mean feat to be able to drive one of these cars. Their power to weight is quite impressive. Their ratio, they've got about 560 kilos they weigh and producing around about 310 horsepower. This is Simon Kane. That's John Briggs, car number 9. Simon Kane closing up behind him. This is Kane, the man, of course, who on the start was left on the grid from pole position. And after all the cars had gone by, he was able to get the car going again. And he's slowly working his way back up through the field.
Drew Price, that had run into problems earlier, was slowing, has retired from the event. We're following Simon Kane, pole sitter, start misser, and now having to do it all from the back. Coming down here on the inside of John Briggs. And he has got a lot of space to make up to be in contact with Mark Scaife. He's now up to 6th. And they really have spread themselves out like Brown's cows. Mark Scaife opening that gap all the time on young Mark Poole from South Australia. And actually, to be perfectly honest, the gap from Poole to Compton has remained fairly steady the last few laps. Oops, there's one spot of bother. Car number 8, John Herman, has gone off. Police found where the circuit was again. And there's our race leader, Mark Scaife.
He's doing it very easy, but he's not letting up at all. He's still got the pedal to the metal and pushing the Formula Holden extremely hard, even though he's got a fairly comfortable lead at this stage.
Really is a pity today to see only 9 starters in the class here at Mallala. I think everyone would love to see the open wheel category of Formula Holden, our Gold Star Premier class, do really well this year. But might be many things in motorsport, but I also happen to be a realist. And they're not going to get it done, these guys, unfortunately. These are the guys that are doing the right thing by the category. The fellas you see here today racing, the entire 9 of them. The category just needs another 9 to even make the category, of course, work. The fellow that's done very well, Mark Poole, we've spoken about before, from South Australia in the Shrike, the Clipsal entry. Brainchild of the TAFE boys here in Adelaide, and last start winner at Sydney's Amaroo Park Raceway. Lovely young guy.
And this is round 4 of the Australian Gold Star Championship. After 3 rounds, Simon Kane is the series leader with 21 points. Drew Price is second on 14. Mark Poole, this is your man on your camera, or was on your screen just a second ago. He's in 3rd position on 16 points. And John Briggs is 4th with 12. This is Mark Poole, car number 21.
That gap's fairly constant too, Steve. Race leader Scaife to Poole and then back to Crompton. Maybe Crompton might be inching closer, but it's not coming in a rush. It's just egging away at lap 10 of 25. Our lap scorer, Brutus Harrison, advises as we head down towards the halfway mark of the race. This is where stamina will come into play.
Yeah, the gap between 1st and 2nd is 4 seconds. Even though it might sound that it's only a slightly small margin at these speeds, it's quite a distance. Series,
of course, sponsored by ACL Engines. who have been very supportive of the category and tried to assist the drivers wherever they could. As I say yet again, I admire the blokes who are at least out there and racing and trying to get the category up and working. But it really does need about another 9 or 10 of them to get a full grid, and they will be a dynamic show. There's no doubt about that.
It's one thing they have had in their favour is the fact that the first 3 rounds that have been held before today is that they've had a different winner at each of the rounds. In the first round, Simon Kane took the honours there. In the second round, John Briggs scored the victory. In the third round, it was Mark Poole, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, up at Amaroo a couple of weeks ago.
There's young Neil Crompton, sometimes commentator and sometimes race car driver. He's doing a good job in the cockpit this year, subbing today for Wyn Percy in the Holden touring car. And after today, jets off to England tomorrow for some open wheeler commitments over there for his sponsor Dulux. So he's a very busy young man. Obviously wants to succeed in the open wheeler category. Let's wait for fourth to give you an idea for Crompton, who is running in third. To fourth is Richard Davidson. There's Richard going through. And up to fifth now, I believe, is Simon Kane. That's been an outstanding comeback from Simon Kane. He really has been just racing himself all afternoon and pushing himself harder and harder. In fact, I've little doubt that he'll probably be able to pull in Richard Davidson, given the fact that we're still to reach the halfway mark in this race. There's the gap from Richard Davidson. And here comes Simon Kane. He has really been on the boil since he rejoined the field. As I said earlier, back to fifth. And he is throwing absolutely everything into this. Interesting to look and see how the lap record goes after this race. I think that Mark Scaife is setting up a comfortable pace out in front. But this is the man that's been doing all the charging.
He's made up so much ground on the field that had he been able to get away from the line from pole position, it would have been interesting to see just how far he would have been able to lead the field at this point in time.
Well, of course, going into the race, Simon qualified with a 1:03.13, Scaife at a 1:05, and Mark Poole at a 1:06. So not much really between the first three.
Not much at all, and they've been working extremely hard, all of them. Well, Kane a little bit untidy there as he goes into the zigzag and comes back onto the start-finish line. At the end of this straight, when they come down here into this right-hander, they actually drive the cars flat out through this corner here, so quite exhilarating. It's quite bumpy. The car jumps around, but it's a matter of hang on and hope for the best.
Down to the right-hander at the end of the pits. Simon Kane driving the Larry Perkins entry. Perkins putting a lot of effort into the car to help this year. We'll hold and show you now the gap from Simon Kane. Keep in mind, Simon's running fifth at the race. Nice to see a lot more in there, but then we have John Briggs coming down the back straight.
And Mark McLaughlin's the other guy on the outside.
He's running this debate going on for sixth at the moment.
And speaking about depletion of the field, Mark was saying earlier that this might even be the last round that he, in fact, takes part in the championship because of sponsorship problems.
Well, that's really is a pity. The drivers need sponsorship to make the whole thing happen, and the sport need lots of cars for it to be interesting and entertaining. So really the loaded dice there.
John Briggs, who's in front there in car number 9, yesterday in practice they blew a motor, and overnight they've rebuilt the motor, and some of the parts that are in the engine are actually out of the original ACL motor that they originally built for the Formula Holden class. That's Mark McLaughlin. Last year he drove in the Elephant. This year he's driving the Chris Hocking entry. It's Briggs, followed by McLaughlin. come out of this left-hander and then head down towards all this little zigzag before coming back onto the start-finish straight.
We're working lap 15 of 25. This round of the Formula Holden Australian Drivers' Championship. Mark McLaughlin going through in car number 73. John Briggs just ahead of him. They head down past the pits into the right-hander. And that gap back at the front of the pack is about the same. Mark Scaife, Mark Poole, Neil Crompton. Next is Richard Davidson running in fourth. Daylight back to him, and then daylight back to our pole sitter Simon Kane. Mark Scaife, if anyone knows his way round Mallala after today's touring car round, it's going to be Mark Scaife. By the time he zips in with 25 laps in this contest and then has 20 minutes for a breather and then saddles up in the tourer for what should be probably another 47 or 48 laps.
It's also it's Mark Poole in second place in the Clipsal Shrike, the South Australian car. Mark Poole currently lying in second place as he goes down. He takes the right-hander here, which takes them into the S's, through the left, then another right, and onto the start-finish line.
There's Neil Crompton, car number 7 going through. Still that chase after Mark Poole.
It really is a family affair too, this Formula Holden. We have, with Simon Kane, his father, providing a tremendous amount of support for him in as far as sponsorship, and also a lot of family support working on the car, etc. With that, and also with Mark Scaife, his father also helping out with sponsorship, as well as working on the car and managing the team in the pits.
And then you've got young Crompton. And his dad is here. As we wait for the gap back to see whether it's diminishing from Crompton, of course, to Richard Davidson. It's about even, and then you'll see Simon Kane coming into the picture. There he is. So all those gaps have been fairly constant the last 4 or 5 laps. I certainly can't see anyone mounting a challenge on Mark Scaife. There's only one man that's capable of doing that, and that's Mark Poole.
One thing good about this class is that it does give Australian drivers, particularly young guys, the chance to have a taste of fairly high performance open wheeler racing, which a lot of them would ultimately be hoping, like in the case of Neil Crompton, to take themselves to Europe and get themselves Formula 3000 drives, or even maybe some Group C sports car driving.
That's quite obviously the ultimate aim of most of the young guys today. I sometimes wonder when they've got to go through the exercise of trying to put together a $500,000 deal to run a season of Formula Holden, though. They're not better off using that money to go to Europe and buy the ride immediately, if one can be fortunate enough to secure a good ride.
Yeah, when they first launched the class, it was sort of hoped that it actually replaced the Formula Mondial class, and it was hoped that perhaps it might have been a little bit cheaper to run, but it certainly hasn't turned out that way at all.
Wouldn't care if they were going to run Formula Vs. There's not a class that's cheap to run in motorsport. Cheaper than running a Formula One, perhaps, but the guys have attacked it. The 7 or 8 of them that are out on the racetrack today are to be admired. They've hung in there with the series.
This is the pole sitter, Simon Kane, who was left on the grid and is now trying to fight his way back through the field. Certainly doing a wonderful job.
Now up to 5th in the race, Simon Kane. John Briggs, of course, that scrap with Mark McLaughlin continues. Briggs, whoops, a little slippy there. The exit, that last corner coming down to the pit straight. from Mark McLaughlin. Car number 9 now up into 6th behind Kane.
Mark McLaughlin in car number 73. In front of him in car 9 is John Briggs. And Crompton's had a spin.
Oh, dearie me.
Neil's on wheels.
Yes, he didn't need to do that one. So he's gone off.
And lost the rear wing off the back of the car as well, so he's obviously touched something there or someone else.
Well, no, unless it was a lap car, because he wasn't close enough to... didn't appear to be coming up on a lap car, so whether or not he's had an off. His Dulux wing has gone back to the pits, and that will render the car absolutely useless now without the wing. He's not going to be able to do a thing with that. In fact, Simon Kane has now passed him. Richard Davison would have moved to 3rd, Simon Kane to 4th. And there is Crompton with very little downforce. All he can do is just head back to the pits. He can't do a thing without the wing. Handling will be just diabolical. So his Formula Holden charge is over here at Mallala, and he looked an absolute sitter for 3rd spot. Mechanical defect flag being shown, unless he's just going to try and go on for points and amble around the circuit, or whether it's time to just call it quits.
And on one of these cars, the rear wing's so important as far as the handling is concerned. The rear of the car will be sliding around everywhere around some of the fast corners. So Crompton with absolutely no chance of trying to maintain a speed that would keep him up into 3rd spot where he was. Absolutely no chance at all, so he slipped way back through the field.
Is our race leader, though, Mark Scaife. And on our next camera shot, you'll probably see that Mark Scaife is finding himself with a bit of a challenge on his hands, because Mark Poole has been able to pull that gap back quite convincingly. Down to the pit turn. Very impressed with the Shrike. It has been trouble-free virtually since they turned up with the race car.
I suppose also with the Shrike team, after the win at Amaroo, they've had to be able to settle down and not sort of sit on their laurels, so to speak. So they've had to do a lot of work on the car while they've been here at Mallala, and overnight they've done a lot of work with the geometry to try and get the car to handle better. And obviously it's working at the moment. It's our race leader, Mark Scaife. And towards the left-hander, which will take him onto the pit straight. Using up all the track as Mark Poole inches his way closer to the race leader, Mark Scaife. Scaife goes down the back straight, a little bit sideways coming out of that pit corner there, which might suggest that the tyres might be getting a little bit warm, so he might have a couple of handling problems.
It's our old friend John Herman back again, doing a bit of a Leyland Brothers discovery tour through the infield. Been around sideways twice in the race so far. Car number 5 going through, Simon Kane. Simon appeared to have eased off the pace just a little. Pretty lonely chase for Simon. He's half a lap back behind them. Looks like
Mr. Herman, a long walk back to the pits.
Interesting to see how many cars in fact finish this one.
They're certainly spread out all over the track, and there's really no duels going on, so to speak, except up at the front, where this is our leader, Mark Scaife. Now, the leader. He's got actually, you know, there's a bit of smoke coming out of the back of Mark Skate's car.
And they're on their last lap, coming up to the chicane for the final time. It's going to be a pretty close finish, but he'll do it. Last turn coming up, and checkered flag at the ready for Mark Skate. He takes this round of the Australian Gold Star Championship from Mark Poole. It's going to be the order, third place. And it may well be Simon Kane. We'll just have to wait and see. Let me tell you, they're a long way back behind the leaders, though. And I think it probably will go to Simon Kane in car number 5, who finished third. Keeping in mind he was on pole for the event. Crompton will limp across the line and pick up some points for the affair. But no doubt about the race leader throughout and the eventual winner. And that, of course, is the man in car number 3, Mark Skate, off to a great start at Mallala this afternoon. Let's hope he can do the same in the Tourers.